Things. Today we're going to talk about events, promotions, conferences, road shows, keynote speaking at other people's events, or putting on your own events. And that could be in the digital space. That could also be live, because live is going to come back again. Woo!
Hey, we're looking forward to it.
Can't wait to press the flesh at a real live. That'll be awesome. Okay,
Yes.
So where we're going to come from with all of this is we thought we'd come from it as an event management point of view, because if you could do your events and have somebody like us look after the back end of event management for you, that's certainly Fiddly Things. There's a lot of Fiddly Things in event management. So we have come from doing a lot of events ourselves over the last 20, 30 years in our careers. And I think we pretty much know events inside and out. We're creative on the ideas side, but most importantly, we're good at the back end side and really knowing how to get the nuts and the bolts all sorted. Because if an event is not smooth, it's really obvious. And if things have not been done and you're running around like a headless chicken, you haven't done the back work. What should happen at an event, and we used to get, it's very eerie and spooky when it happens, is you sit around and there's no disasters, there's no worries. Everything is running smoothly. And in events, we used to look around and go, oh my God, what's that about? Like, we're waiting for something scary to happen, and it never would, because we had organised it properly in this.
Exactly.
And so, yes, you can pat yourself on the back when you're sitting around going, oh my God, I've got nothing to do except drink champagne with my guests. That's the position we want to put you in. We want to put you in a position where you're relaxed, you're with your guests, you are networking, and you are getting your money's worth out of the investment that you've put into this event, and you should have no worries. Whereas if you're running around doing everything yourself, the printer is not printing tags properly, the numbers are missing, the tags are not matching the bags, and there's not enough bags left, and we've run out and they're in the storage and they're in somebody's car and the courier hasn't arrived. These are the things people do when they have not organised things properly. So we highly recommend you working with a professional event coordinator and a professional event management team. And we'd love to be that for you. But there's millions out there. There's loads and loads. So look around at who's doing well, who's organising what in your local area, and find out who that organiser is, because it generally isn't the business owner themselves. Event management is a whole skill in of itself. And there's just
it's like well-oiled machinery. Every piece needs to move in synchronicity with the next one, oiled smoothly, and you put your product or your beginning point at one end, it works through the machinery and comes out the other end with the perfect event. Yeah.
So everything is an event to us. So we see everything as a project, and an event is a project. So it doesn't matter if you are an exhibitor and you're one exhibitor of 200 exhibitors, that for you is your event, your little exhibition stand. There's still 200 things that need to be done to make sure that that all arrives on time, is all set up correctly with the right amount of stock, the right amount of brochures, business cards, that you arrive on time, your outfit, your clothes for each day, your hotel room, your flight. I mean, there's 1,000 things that go just to get you as an exhibitor. Now, where I've worked is putting those industry events together. So all my clients in one room, each one has electrical issues. They have stand issues, they have freight issues, they have parking issues. The list just goes on and on when it comes down to it. So I had a bit of a philosophy around event management, and that is, if it can be done now, do it now. And so I used to be very, very good at getting as much done everything done as much as you could up until the point so that there was barely anything left to do by the time you got to the real thing. So that as people were setting up, I could spot check, I could smooch the room, I could meet my clients. I'd have time to do that. Whereas if you're just running around putting out fires all the time, it's not a good way to be, and you look all sweaty and ugly and your lipstick.
And people pick up the energy off you from that. They see you looking flustered and they start to look a little bit kind of flustered themselves.
Yeah, and I'll never forget one story. We were setting up a big show at Darling Harbour one year, and it was, you know, my show, so I was in charge of it all happening. And I was going around checking on everybody that they were moving in well and everything was, you know, going okay. And I saw these people setting up their stand and they were in a mess. Like there was sort of tears going on. They were frantic. They were frazzled. And I went up to them and I said, "Oh my God, what is going on for you?" And they said, "Oh, you won't believe it. Our brochures are not going to arrive till tomorrow. The courier is stuck. They've just broken down and they're stuck on the freeway in Brisbane and blah, 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 blah." And I said, "Okay, wow, okay." And they just said, "Everything's gone wrong today, everything." And I said, "Okay, so would you like me to take all your stress away?" Of course, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I said, "Are you ready? I'm just about to take all your stress away and it's all just going to disappear." And they said, "Cool." And I don't know what they thought I was going to do, maybe ring up the courier, get something organised. And I just said to her, "What I want you to do is I want you to imagine the woman who's just had a stillborn baby in the hospital this morning. And I now want you to compare your circumstances to their circumstances."
Perspective.
Yeah. And then I said, "And how stressed are you now about your freight and your brochures and the guy stuck on
blah,
the..."
blah.
They said, "It just doesn't matter." I said, "Okay, let's get this shit on the road. Let's get you set up. Let's get you all ready." And, you know, the brochures arrived the following morning. And all was well. So it's just really interesting in event management. It's about stress management and dealing with everybody's stress. And I think the way I do that is I contrast reframe everything so that it puts it into perspective. And the reason why bridezillas become bridezillas is because they have to organise one event in their lifetime. That's it, one.
Yeah.
So when I organised my event, my wedding, it was like no big deal because I'd done so many events. It was just no big deal. It wasn't stressy. I did that, then I did that, then I made that decision, then that decision. It's no big deal. The reason they get stressed is they've got no contrast reframe. They think this is the one and only day that matters in their entire lives. And yes, while it's important, and yes, there's a lot of stress because you're spending so much money, still it doesn't help the atmosphere. It doesn't help your experience around what you're going to remember when you look back on this event and say, "Oh, it was so much fun," or "It was an absolute nightmare."
That's right. And it's the energy around it too, because you're dead right. Okay, maybe the brochure's not there, but if you as a speaker or the front person for your business are meeting and greeting people and communicating with them and explaining all about your product or service, the brochures are neither here nor there at the end of the day. So it's really about managing the energy around it all. If you take it that this is going to be a shit fight, it will be. And if you take it that no matter what, we'll get this through and it's going to be 2 thumbs up, it will be.
Yeah, totally. Just be the best thing you can be at an event of yours is relaxed and be focused on what's important, and that is meeting the people. That's the whole point of a live event, is being with the people. Everything around it is superfluous, and quite frankly, the punters never notice the details. They never
don't.
Those brochures are missing when you get a business card instead. They get a business card and think that that's what they were going to get anyway. They really don't notice those nuances that we notice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think we're not brain surgeons, so don't take life so seriously. And as Joe
Yeah.
says, lighten up.
Yeah, and look, whatever it is that you're planning to put on, speak to us. We can talk to you about it. We can make it a simple, effective way of doing it. And it doesn't have to be something that you get stressed about. You turn up and do your part. We'll take care of all the little fiddly things in the background for you.
Yeah, totally. We'd love to do that for you. So a couple of ideas I want you to think about is I want you to do some homework about your conferences. Like, what conferences should you be appearing at, and what conferences should you be attending to do networking and sales stuff and marketing stuff. So there's two different ways of looking at conferences, but you definitely should always, even if it's not even yearly, by like every second year, go to your big industry conference. That's always good. And if you can afford it, what's really great is to go to the international ones. So really explore, and we can do a lot of this research for you if you wanted us to, is looking at the international ones and getting a list together, a bit of a database, and putting all the dates next to it so that you know what's out there and what the cost is. And then you can make some decisions. And then looking at what's on in Australia and making some decisions. And then deciding of all of those, is there anything you want to go, like actually buy an exhibition stand or be a speaker at? So, yeah, you need to do some research in two different ways there. Then after you've looked at the big industry events, then start to look at some events, like some normal events. They might be local events, they might be state events, they might be national events, they might be run regularly or annually or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But any sort of events, right down to meetups, right through to major workshops. And have a look, again, from two different perspectives. What should you attend for your own personal and professional development? But also, what should you attend from a business perspective? What's good for sales and marketing?
Yes.
So that's good. And then have a little look at promotions. What promotional activities could you do that may fall into an event or a project that we could help you with put together? So it could be something like, just as an example, just a promotional book launch. You might need a book launch. So when you come to us with something like that, like a book launch or a product launch or a showcase of something or other, that's just something we can look at for you, put it together. But what I would be suggesting is maybe thinking a little bit bigger about a roadshow, a national roadshow. So if we do one launch project for you, we could suck it and see, have a little practice. That could be a nice little pilot for us all to work on. But then if everything goes well and we all do well, how about we roll that out and do that around the country? And what would be your stops along the way? And for those of us who like to travel, and I know Joe and I love to travel, we love a good road show because you get to see Australia, you get to go to some cool spots. And I tell you what, Sydney gets everything, and they're a bit spoiled. But when you go to Melbourne people are really keen to get out. So they tend to get off their seat and go out to things. They're very social down there for some reason.
Yes.
Brisbane people, so Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, they're sort of spoiled. They get everything. But when you start to do a road show that's a regional tour, what you find is people really appreciate it, and you get way bigger numbers when you do regional launches than you do with the big city, because the big city, they don't care. They get everything. They don't think you're special. Yeah. But to be a big fish in a little pond versus being a little fish in a big pond, there is some difference there. So we can discuss that. And I tell you what, if you want to do business with Perth, you have to go to Perth. They are very parochial. And I always make sure that I try to get over there at least once a year. I've got loads of clients over there. I always love it, but I've only ever got clients over there when I go there. They are sick of having to come to us all the time in Melbourne, Sydney or Brisbane. They really love it when you take the time out and add Perth to your list. And also, don't forget Canberra. Canberra is a fabulous market. I've done heaps and heaps and heaps of work in Canberra. I always love going to Canberra. I think it's such a beautiful place at different times of the year. I've got loads of friends that I stay with. And, don't forget Canberra and little Adelaide. Adelaide loves you to visit. They will come out for all sorts of things. They're a very social city as well. So my favourite.
And they'll roll the wineries out for you. Lots of winery tours.
So we have some really cool ways of saving you money. So we don't want you to spend money on elaborate things.
No.
We consider ourselves the sponsorship queens, so that if anything can be sponsored or gifted to you or bartered, we will do it. We don't want to just go and spend your money on these events and it will cost you a fortune and we haven't really thought about it. We like to find really cool ways to save you time, but really cool ways to save you money. So one of those ideas might be, just as an example, don't use hotels.
No.
Hire out a big villa, like a 10-bedroom villa, on Airbnb. And so for a tiny amount of money that you would have spent in a hotel, you can actually have a much more intimate, way more glamorous, with heaps more privacy and your own space and your own pool and your own grounds. It's amazing. So we like to come up with really innovative, interesting ways of having events. Especially retreats. We really pride ourselves on residential retreats. That's one of our favourite things. So if you want to get into retreats as a revenue stream, let us know. We'd love to play in that little sandpit.
And it's great connection, and it's a really enjoyable experience. You come away saying that was the wow factor. Hotels.
Yeah.
You know, you may have a nice room, but it's very impersonal. When you go to a retreat, the way we set them up, you come away with the wow factor.
Yes, and we love doing spiritual retreats. So we're both into, really spiritual things. So if anybody's interested in doing beautiful, rustic, spiritual, down-to-earth retreats, that's one of our sweet spots. And then the mid-range retreats, so more corporate-y, but in nature, lots of nature, but more of a director's retreat or a strategy type executive retreat. We love those, but we do like to do them with, special cooks and have people come in and cook for you, and have real experiences and parties and breakouts, and still do the work. We take the work very seriously. We want you to get the work done like we do in our retreats, but we really want them to be away from the office and completely different from the norm. They're in boxes all the time. They're in hotels all the time. Let's take them out in nature. Let's put them in a tree house with 10 bedrooms, bring in a beautiful cook, and let's feed them up and give them a real experience to remember. Right through to we love to hire out whole places. So that's kind of where we head for, is really wanting to make sure that the whole place is taken by us. And
I did a great one, Katrina, out at the mansion at Werribee, and it was a group of executive lawyers, very high up. They didn't know what to expect. They all turned up busy, briefcases, looking furrowed brow. And I organised the whole mansion at Werribee, all the accommodation, had chefs come in to prepare a beautiful banquet meal. And I did it as an event that evening where they were given a script while I ate dinner, and they looked around. It was a murder mystery, but if I'd told them ahead of time that's what I was doing, it would have been the eye-rolling, how's this going to go? They looked at it as they were eating and thought, oh, okay, and I gave them one piece to wear, whether it was a hat or a scarf, to create their character. And I just remember walking out of the room, standing back and watching, and someone ran in looking like Sherlock Holmes, yelling out, "There's been a murder," because they're all high-end lawyers. They looked up and I just closed the doors behind me, and the next day they went, "That was amazing." They all sat around with their little funny one piece on to create their character with their script, and it went for about an hour as they ate their dinner, and they just loved it and said it was the best event they had attended in a long time. Still discussed all their bits that they had to the next day, but that set the scene that night for everybody to be fully engaged, and they had a great time.
Yeah,
I loved doing it. I was totally thrilled doing it.
Yeah, it's about experiences and creating memories. So meetings are meetings. If you're going to have it in a meeting room, well, then so be it, if that's what's warranted. But there is scientific proof that productivity goes through the roof when you take people away, and that's why those sort of events still exist.
Yes.
I've been in the $3,000 ticket to retreats. I've been in that field for a long time, about 20 years, selling retreats for $3,000 a ticket. And the more luxurious ones, you're looking at about $5,000 a ticket. And then when you start to go overseas, I find that I try to deter my clients from going overseas, because a lot of the money goes into airfares instead of the venue. And so you're much better off staying in Australia, avoiding those big airfares, and making sure that the venue is where the money is, not in the airfare, because all that time spent in the air could be time spent bonding, learning,
networking. Yeah,
networking, exactly. So I'm a bit like that. But if you really do want to go to Bali or have an event overseas, then certainly that's doable. And airfares are obviously so cheap these days that having a retreat, even in New Zealand's a wonderful location.
Yes.
Singapore's awesome. And, that's all going to open up again for us. So just be creative. And if you're interested in having some experts back you up, then we would be here for you at fiddlythings.com.au, and just have a free discovery session. Have 1 hour.
We love it.
Spitballing with us and just see what we're made of when we get to put our minds to your dreams. And we would love to take part and be a part of your next big deal.
Exactly. You do the business and we'll do all the background for you to make it happen.
Yeah. So that's our little episode today on events, promotional activities and conferencing. We look forward to hearing your ideas and adding to your thinking. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.